Hey guys, Michael here, and I'm joined today by my friend Ryan Ehler, who has a history in the mortgage industry, but also in really, I think, deeply in marketing, right? Is that sort of what you would call yourself? A
Yeah, I
marketer?
would say that I am 100% a marketer.
Yeah. And so where did you start? Like, how did you start the process like, what was it that made you got interested in marketing?
So it was over a decade ago, I got into doing fitness training, so like personal training. And I didn't last long in like a big corporate gym. So then I went out on my own, rented some space. And back then it was around 2000, like mid to late 2000s. And then it really started to get into full swing for me like 2010, 2011. And back then, if you had a website, you were ahead of the game, right?
Yeah.
So I had a website, I had a good location, and literally it was just like autopilot. Like people were finding me, they were reaching out. And then I had the bright idea to hire a coach who I found out he really didn't know what he was doing. And I moved my business 8 miles away from where I was. It was off the freeway and literally lost all my clients within like 3 to 6 months.
And they were
And
personal training clients, is that?
right.
Yeah.
So my costs went up because now I'm not just paying based off of who I'm training and like a set fee. I'm paying for the facility, the utilities, all of that. I have a rent, and I lost all my clients. And so I was like down to my last dollar, and I'm like, I got to figure this out. And I was dabbling in video, and I said, I'm just going to go all in. And so instead of sitting here, crying into my hands every day, like, when are people going to find me? I said, well, I'm just going to have to go make people find me. And so I started making videos, posting them on social media. And then all of a sudden, boom, our gym exploded again. And that's kind of where it all started.
And then, so that was, I mean, you left the gym business, right?
Correct.
And now and then you were in the mortgage side and you sort of rebuilt what you did on the gym side from a marketing perspective, but in the mortgage side. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So one of our long-term clients was in mortgage, and he goes, dude, your spot is in the back of a complex behind a building with no sign, and you keep it full. So if whatever you're doing for this, if you do this in mortgage, you can add a zero to whatever you're making.
Yeah.
And I thought he was just joking with us or whatever. And the gym world was changing. It was going from private training, small group training, to like large group, like CrossFit and Orange Theory. And that just really wasn't our model. We were more like hands-on. We really wanted to see people get results. And I just wasn't willing to make that change and sacrifice the quality of training. So we took him up on his offer, and he wasn't wrong. So
Yeah.
we just modeled what we were doing and just geared it towards mortgage. And once my wife came on and kind of helped me mastermind our strategy, dial in our branding, take care of all the back end of the deals, all I had to do was just push hard on the marketing front. And literally, we just grew a personal brand with our local community and sphere. And in about 36 months or so, we generated over 250 deals from social media and video.
So from day one to end of year three, you closed 250 deals.
We were I was about a year and a half in license, but once she came on and we created the
Yeah.
Ehler lending team and
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
went all in on our brand,
Yeah.
it was about 36 months, and we created somewhere between 250 and 300 deals from
Was
social
there,
media and video.
so was there crossover then? I mean, were you running the gym at the same time as you were also starting to get your licensing for the mortgage side, or did you
That
just like,
first 18 months was kind of that transition period where we were closing the gym down, kind of getting secure in like our knowledge of the mortgage space. And yeah, that first year and a half was brutal because I went right into the deep end, 100% commission. Had to just learn it from the ground up. No leads, no nothing. My mentor was cool. He threw me a couple deals. Just, I don't know if he threw me even more than three. It was more so of like, dang, like, yeah, you probably need a little bit more than a draw. So I'll throw you a bone here and there. But other than that, we had to generate it ourselves. So that first year and a half, I was borrowing money from my father-in-law who had no money, and just said, hey, can you give me $500 so I don't overdraft and end up having more money going out. And then as soon
Yeah.
as my commission comes in, I'll pay you back. So we
Yeah.
did that for like over a year, just robbing Peter to pay Paul until
Yeah.
we figured it out. And then for us personally, when I went from traditional like retail to a mortgage broker and was able to really push our personal brand because they were okay with that, we quadrupled our business in a matter of like 3 to 6 months.
So when you're pushing a brand, right, and you're one team, your wife, and at this point in time, she's now, kind of handling the back end and making sure the loans
Yep.
get done so that, that guys like you and me don't completely forget about the loan and end up on the, doing something else.
Yes.
You're, so you're all in it. What sort of the demographic, how did you build the brand, and what size area were you marketing to?
That's a good question. So back then, our sweet spot was kind of dirty, a lot of hair on it, FHA and VA. That was like in the broker space, that was what was really our strong suit. So we were just picking up deals that other people couldn't do or weren't willing to do and just gobbling up these deals that no one could do, getting realtor partners where we were saving their commission checks. COVID hit and all the lenders' appetite for those disappeared. And so we had to make a shift. So we just started shifting the content that we were putting out to more of a conventional buyer. So instead of talking about, how to get good credit, it was like how to maximize your credit, how to use your 401k as a down payment, how to sell a home, buy a home, and use financing to do that. So just we changed our message. And just by that, within a few months, our average credit pull went from low 500s to mid 700s.
So
So it's
early,
whatever you put out is what you attract.
yeah, that makes sense, right? Yeah, you're marketing to your customer avatar, as they would say, and you
Mm-hmm.
want to bring those kinds of people in. But it's interesting because it's pretty early still in your career, a couple of years in, especially
Mm-hmm.
early on. Did you ever feel like you were like the imposter syndrome? Do you know what that means?
Oh yeah. Um, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it still is kind of surreal when you're not doing much work, but your phone's just constantly ringing and your messages are going off and people are calling you and want your advice. And it's I don't know if you ever get used to that. Maybe you do, but it still just kind of blows my mind sometimes that if you just put yourself out there consistently and you actually lead with value and helping people, how much return you get, if that
Yeah,
makes
one
sense.
that does make sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And one thing for me that like just comes to mind from when I first started was, if you spend a week in a mortgage office as a loan officer, and I guess I'm speaking to like kind of those newer loan officers that are asking themselves, how can I put together a video like this that's like valuable to somebody? How do I not be like, I don't know everything about mortgages yet. I'm just kind of new into the process. Well, if you spend a week in an office, more than 99% of the people, the
Right.
consumers that are out there, and you can take a message and deliver it to them. And so, I mean, what kind of advice would you have for that kind of brand new loan officer who's maybe feeling that imposter syndrome and afraid to kind of put themselves out there?
First off, talk about what you know. And so it may be this little on the scale of mortgages, but dive into those things first. So like whatever you're learning and you feel the most comfortable with, that's what you talk about. Talk about stories of you helping people or saving somebody or someone in your office, like a story that you heard and say, hey, can I use that story to educate people? So an example of this would be car notes. Car notes are like the number one factor in DTI of why people get denied, at least from my side of things. If I have to deny someone because of DTI, it's usually a car note. And so we just tell a story about how, we had somebody and then they bought a car right before they went to buy a house. And so we educate our community of, if you're thinking of buying a house, secure the house first before you think about buying a new car. And so that was one of the main themes that we really touched on, and we still touch on over and over and over, because it seems to be the biggest mistake that especially new home buyers make. And that's an easy topic. You don't have to know anything about the actual doing of mortgages. And with that being said, I've never done a mortgage start to finish. I have no idea.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
don't have to know how the sausage is made. That doesn't mean that you don't need to know products, guidelines. Like you have to understand the basics of mortgages, but
Right.
you don't have to understand like okay, I go into Encompass or Point or Arrive or whatever it is, and I put this here and I push this here and I push this button. If that's not your goal, you don't ever have to learn that if you incorporate the right team.
Yeah. So
And I
that's
did
about,
that from the very beginning.
and that's about business, right? It's about building a business and then focusing on your strengths.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I learned not recently, but maybe a few years ago, is that the worst thing you can do in any business is try to strengthen your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on your strengths, find people that can handle the weaknesses. And
Exactly.
that's exactly what you did, right? You figured
Even from
out
the
that,
beginning, no money, nothing coming in. I still leveraged my mentor's team, and I took a massive cut in pay
yeah,
to do that, but it allowed me to focus on what I was good at, which is making, content, phone calls, reaching out, connections, relationships. That's what I knew that I would excel at. Teaching realtor classes, using video to attract realtors to come in and want to learn from me. To this day, I still, have relationships from 5, 6, 7 years ago from some of the first classes that I taught.
and
And I
those
just taught what I
classes.
knew, social media, video, like, and as I was learning it, I was just teaching it. And you don't have to fake it. You can say, hey, something new that I'm doing, it seems to be working well. I'd like to teach it to you. You don't have to say you're an expert. You can say we're learning together. So if you're just getting into this and you wanting to attract other like realtors that are kind of at your same level, it's a great way to lead with value, but not overpromise and just say, hey, we're learning it together. Let's be a resource. Let's grow our business together. Let's have each other's back. And it's a great way to build long-term relationships that are actually real relationships and not based off of transactional value that a
Yeah, or
lot
some
of
sort.
people.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Or some sort of like guru, self-induced guru status where you've got to maintain this avatar that's not truly you. One thing I've noticed
Mhm.
about you, just after knowing you for a few years, is that like you're endlessly authentic with who you are. Like you don't have time to waste trying to be somebody else, you
Right.
know. And that's what actually my second manager in the mortgage industry. She was like that with every one of her clients. She would be on the phone with a brand new customer and she would say something that I could never imagine that you would say to a brand new client, like, oh my God, my dog just threw up in my office, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that client just connected with them because it's not the stuffy tux, or like suit. It's like a person, you're
Right.
dealing with. And that's what I notice about your marketing content a lot of times is you're just there to help. You're a person who's trying to help. And I think a lot of people make that mistake when they go out with their marketing messaging is trying to be a guru. I'm preaching. Are you going to listen? You're like, just like what you said. Hey, here's something that I'm working on. Like I
Mhm.
found this cool thing. Check it out. And I think that makes a big difference.
I think so. Like, I still don't consider myself a guru. I know a lot about marketing and a lot about video, but it doesn't mean I know everything. There's always more to learn. Like we run this group, and we're doing a new thing where it's like kind of like a live coaching called the local celebrity method, where we teach people to use the video and to leverage it locally. And these group phone calls, like, I learn from other people on these. So like I never try to think like, oh, I know more than everybody. I just say, this is the way that I do it. So you can learn from my perspective and then just fold that in the pieces that you like. And then vice versa. Someone might say, hey, I like doing things this way. And I go, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to maybe incorporate a piece of that into my flow.
One thing that a lot of people get hung up on a lot of times is I don't know how to shoot a video.
Hmm.
Like what do they need in order to create an effective video for marketing purposes?
Just their phone. I mean,
Yeah.
that's all you have to start with. You can scale it to the moon. I probably have $30,000 or $50,000 worth of video equipment in here, but that's my hobby, and it took me a decade to acquire all of this. And a lot of the times, it's a pain in the ass. It really is. Like, every time I'm doing a shoot and I have multiple cameras, there's always something that's not working. It's just the nature of the more cogs that you put in, things are going to not work. Whereas with my phone, it works every time. I just hit record. So if I need something now fast and just done, I always grab my phone. If I have time to monkey with stuff, then I'll set up my equipment. But for the most part, just grab your phone. If you want to up your value, if you go to theloco.com, we have a tab up there that says gear, and it's all of our favorite like affordable gear. There's a wireless microphone system that just plugs in. It's like $50. You can clip it to your shirt, and it will just increase the quality of the audio that you get, especially if you have an echoey room or you're outside. So that would be the first thing I would add. Second thing is you get like a ring light. Just add a little bit of light into your scenario so that you're not overcast or you're not dark or you don't have a bunch of grain in your video. Having light definitely helps these small sensor phones. And you can just get a little tripod. So like this guy right here is my favorite one, and it's $15 on Amazon. So this is on our gear page too. So it goes up to about 5.5 feet, but then it also just turns into a little selfie stick. So it's kind of like an all-in-one, and then, you know, extends out. So I'll just put that in my backpack or whatever if I'm going on a trip, or throw it in the car if I'm out and about. So I always have something I can just sit there and use as a tripod, or I can just hold it and use as a selfie stick. So you don't have to get super expensive stuff to get really good quality these days.
Does the video have to be perfect?
I don't think I've ever seen a perfect video. So no. And you're going to dislike every video you ever make, most likely. And like, I could pick apart every video that I've ever put out and things I didn't like about it, but it's not about you. It's about who you're making it for. And this is one thing that I teach is you're making videos for your community to educate them, to save them time, money, energy from making a mistake, from being preyed upon of maybe some shisty people in your, you know, that do business in your area. Like, that's what you're doing, is you're saving people from making a mistake. And if you look at it from that point of view, it makes it much easier to create content rather than I'm doing this for me to get business. Yes, that's a byproduct. We all have to make money. But if I focus on who I'm making this content for, it makes it much easier to just put things out, I think.
Yeah. Because then you're not like micromanaging it. You know that the information you're putting out there is going to be new for someone, and you can come up with a lot more content. I read a great Facebook post from a loan officer actually not that long ago, which was, he said, I realized that every piece of content that I created doesn't need to change the world. And a lot of people, myself included, always feel like it's got to be like perfect post-production. The content has to be right on point. There can be no stammering. The sound quality has to be perfect. What happens is I would get in my own way.
Mm-hmm.
And the content wouldn't get created because I'm waiting for this perfect storm that's never going to come. And instead of waiting for that, just like pick up your phone and like, I just had a thought, boom, just hit that video record button and let it rip. And one of my favorite videos I ever produced was like a straight up outtakes video where I just like, I got the last one right. And so I left it in a 3.5 minute video. You had to get through 3.5 minutes of me messing up to see the point of it. But I actually got like the most engagement from that because it was pretty funny.
Right. It was funny, and you got to show who you really were. Like, your personality comes through more.
Yeah. So if you had, let's say I guess this technically was you, so I could just ask you how you did it.
Mm-hmm.
You got no money, you've got a family, you got 3 growing boys. Your oldest looks like he's almost as big as you now.
Yeah.
And you got to get out there and make some money. You got $100 to market your business. What are you doing?
I am creating content on a weekly basis. So at least one piece of content that I'm putting out on mortgages every week. And then as much content about just the day in the life that I can put out. So whatever my hobbies are, whatever I'm into, this kind of goes further on your friends list on Facebook than it might on like a Reels or something that's like goes everywhere. Mm-hmm. But you just post your stuff. And then I like to brand. So even if I'm not talking about mortgages, I always have my brand present for the most part, whether it's my personal brand, whether it says I love mortgages. Like, I always want people to think back and say, Ryan's the mortgage guy. Like, that's I constantly want to be in their head saying, if I need something about mortgages, that's the first person that I'm going to contact. So yeah, just putting out content and then teaching classes to realtors. The more people that you can get in front of and talk and shake hands, the better. Excuse me. So getting with title or lawyers in your state, depending on what you are, and come up with classes, whether it's on like VA loans, it's on social media, it's on video, it's on investment loans, it's on portfolio loans, like whatever it is that you want to focus on, create a class around that, fill the room, teach for 20 to 30 minutes, and then do a Q&A. And don't worry about not having the answers. You're not expected to have every answer. It's all about how you field that question. So if someone asks you a detailed question that's outside of your scope, whether it's about video, whether it's about mortgages, say, you know what, that's a great question. I haven't had that one specifically come up before. I'm going to write that down, and then I'm going to get back with you with a detailed answer to make sure that I get you the best answer. Same thing with guidelines change all the time. So if someone's asking an obscure thing that you know or think, oh, you know what, I think that recently changed. You let them know, I think that recently changed. Let me double check to make sure. And I've never had somebody think that I was dumb or was upset that I said I will get back with them.
At least no one that you wanted to work with.
Right. Because you can't know everything about everything. So yeah, so don't be afraid of going out and teaching stuff, even if you're a little bit new to it. As long as you know more than they do, that's all that matters. So yes, teaching realtors, and then connecting with the realtors that you build the deepest relationship with. They may not be the best producers right now, but if you get along with them and it's an easy correspondence, then that's somebody that you need to keep in touch with.
Yep.
And the more of those connections that you can make over time, their business grows, your business grows, and then you guys grow together. And you'll land some people that are currently doing business along the way too. But the focus is just to have as many touch points with people as possible. And I wouldn't spend, if you're broke, don't spend any money. Just, you got to hustle. And then a lot of people don't work social media. If you just post and think stuff's going to come to you, it's not going to happen. If you notice that someone keeps constantly commenting on your stuff, send them a message and just say, hey, I really appreciate you commenting on all my videos. Thank you. And you know what? Half the time they might say, you know what, I do have a question. But if you did not take the time to reach out to them, or if you're going after a realtor and they make a funny post, message them and say, hey, that post was super funny, or comment on their post. Like, if you're not working it, it's not gonna, like, no one's gonna come and save you. You have to go out and make it happen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And all the tactics you just described, creating a lunch and learn, or go to the title company, have them bring a bunch of realtors into the room to teach a topic, post on social media using your phone as a device, create a short, message people that like your posts or comment on them. $0. All that
Zero.
can be done to nothing. And it's probably a lot more than 95% of the loan officers out there doing today. I mean,
Exactly.
it's,
And then once you're
those,
making money, start investing in learning.
yeah,
Buy a marketing course, hire an editor, just whatever it is that you need to invest in. If you want to learn it faster, then just learn it from somebody that has done it before you. And that's what I've done. I've probably spent somewhere between 50 and 100 grand on coaches, consulting, courses, because I want to learn fast. And even
yeah,
if I feel like I know a topic, I still pay. I just paid a TikTok coach 5 grand because I was like, you know what? These young kids know more than I do. I want to learn from them. And so I'm just going to speed up the process. I'll just go right to the source.
yeah. It's a ramp, right? Ramping it up.
Yeah.
Same way a
Hmm.
lot of businesses raise money. It's like the currency in marketing is your knowledge. And the only way to get that knowledge is by starting, or by hiring coaches, or joining groups like your LO Code. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So we have what we call the Mortgage Marketing Masterclass, and it's really everything that we've developed, from building a brand to creating video, how to set up your gear, how to market it, where to post, when to post, how to post, sales. It's just everything, all encompassing. Like, I try to think of what everything that we've done that has worked. And then since I've gone through so many courses, I wanted to make it as bite-sized as possible. So instead of doing a live call where I talk for 2 hours and just say, hey, here's the course, and now you have to filter through it, I specifically shot each course to where it's broken down into 2 to 10 minute segments so that you can go through and learn at your own pace and then come back and say, what was that one piece Ryan was talking about? Oh, I can go and find that exact video. I hate having to like scrub through an hour or 2 hour long video and say, where was that part that I forgot to write down? And so I tried to make it to where it's more consumable and you can do it at your pace.
Yeah.
And then what we just launched was the local celebrity method, which kind of takes that and then adds a coaching aspect to where it's 8 weeks long and we give people exactly what to do every day of the week for 8 weeks. And then we do live calls to help people where they're stuck. So it kind of just takes it and then just puts a little bit more accountability to it. And then we offer video editing for when people are, we teach you how to edit in the course, but once you're ready to buy your time back and you have more money than time, then you might as like, that's what I learned is once I hired an editor and we created our team, buying that time back allows you to focus on what actually makes you money, which is more phone calls, more connections. Editing videos doesn't make you money, but in the beginning, you got to do what you got to do. Not everybody can afford that, but once you can, gosh, it's just changed my world not having to edit 20 hours a week anymore.
I mean, it's the same process that all loan officers understand that, if you're processing your own loans, you're prospecting less. And if you're the figurehead of the business and you're building your local brand, if you're not spending most of your time building that content and that brand, which is the lead funnel, right at the top of your sort of where your leads are coming from and your relationships and your referrals and all that stuff, then you're wasting time essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
So on that note, if you just despise being on video, you despise marketing, you despise being the front runner, then you need to find a partner that hates doing loans. And you guys need to go 50-50 and work on it. And I know a ton of people that have done this, and a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to lose 50%. Well, 50% or 100% of not much is a lot less than 50% of a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people have to figure that out. So if you're very organized, you can do sales, then you can just build a team underneath you and you don't have to create a partnership. But I think a lot of people would find a ton of value in finding a partner that fits that other half. I was just lucky enough that my wife was that person, and she was able to fit in so that we could just rock right away and be on the same path. Whereas other people are going to have to find that person. But once you do, your growth can be exponential when all you have to do is focus on your one objective, which is sales and marketing, and the other side is just ops, closing the deals.
Have you read the book, The One Thing?
I don't think I've read that one yet.
Check it out. Yeah, it's Gary Keller. So the owner of Keller Williams, founder of Keller Williams. He talks a lot about that one thing, being like your focus, your purpose, the everything you do, the reason why. And it's a good easy, lightweight read. So
okay, yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah. So now you've got the LO code and you've built a sort of a referral mechanism, a team where you're just filtering loans through, you're marketing your business, and then they're handling the work. When's the last time you talked to a client?
Well, that's funny you said that. It was yesterday and I messed it up. So I'm still so ingrained of just taking on that sales role that I start, my sales calls are only about 5 to 8 minutes long. That works for me. And I learn about them and I can build rapport since I've done it, for so many years in a very short period of time. But with that is once you build that rapport, it's really hard to handle lead off, and they get real sketched out when you try to pass them to someone else. And we lost the deal because of that.
I want to deal with Ryan, that kind of, oh man.
And I'm like, well, I'm not local to your area. So you need to work with, the person we had him assigned to, and he got sketched out and he was like, hey, I'm just going to stick with what I was doing. But that made me realize, like, if someone finds my number and calls me, I need to reassure them, like, hey, I'm going to get you with this person there in your area. They work directly with us, they're our partner. And then we'll have them, can they give you a call right now? And in that instance, I wouldn't have built that connection that I did with him on that 5-minute phone call, because he was like, oh, so you just don't want to work with me. That was his response.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's not it. It's just, I want you to work with someone local in your time zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Totally. Yeah, it's hard, right? Because with scale, something's got to go. You got to let go of the reins a little bit and that stuff. And you're a salesperson. I mean, that's what you do. That's marketing, generally speaking, is sales.
Oh, so I'd like to touch on that too. There's a big difference between marketing and sales, right? And marketing is what warms people up to a very easy sale.
Okay. Yeah.
So sales in general, like a cold sale would be a cold call. They don't know you. You're having to build everything on one phone call. Where marketing, they already know who you are. They've heard of you. They've seen your stuff, or someone said, hey, you need to work with them, which makes the sale much, much easier. And that's what video has done. And then you get to this self-fulfilling prophecy of, if someone calls me or messages me, I just assume they know exactly who I am, what I do, and I don't have to explain any of that. I just assume the sale, and it, 9 out of 10 times it works.
Yeah.
So that's one reason why I think marketing is so powerful, is then you don't have to be some sales guru, hard closer. All you have to do is just believe in yourself and what you do, and then advise people, and the sales
Yeah.
just pile up.
Marketing kind of acts as a filter, right?
Mm-hmm.
It brings the people that want to work with you. And if you're marketing correctly to the right types of people, then it brings you the people you want to work with.
Right.
And so it's the best of both worlds, right? It softens the need to sell because you said it's warming them up, but also make sure that the people that are coming to you are the kinds of people you want to work with.
Right. A great thing that sometimes I forget to do is just make them qualify themselves. So what made you reach out to me? Why do you want to work with me?
Yeah. Now I'm
What
talking
was
about how
pause?
great you are, how interesting your stuff was, and I'm essentially selling myself on your services. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Very cool.
so that's something that sometimes I forget to do because I'm very direct type A. And every time I remind myself of that, it's always an even easier sell when you ask that question.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. So if you're listening to this podcast or vlog or whatever you want to call it, today, Ryan, what was one thing that you would recommend that they do? And don't hesitate to sell your services here. I mean, this is your chance to let them know about what you're doing, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think it's just really building a brand and making sure that you're putting quality content out into the world, because now, the day and age we live in, if you don't have content, you're not relevant. You're not good at what you do. If someone Googles you and there's not a slew of content of you being an expert, it's hard for people to trust you. Whereas I've made hundreds, if not 1,000 videos, and if people go and search me, it'll come up everywhere. YouTube, Google, they'll see our brand, they'll see our reviews. So I would highly recommend, even if you've been in the game for 20 years, and even if you only make content for your realtor partners, you want to be top of mind and just remind them all the time that you are who you are, you're good at what you do, and you're always there, always available.
Yeah.
And if you need help with that, you're more than welcome to reach out. You can find us on Facebook or our website, thelocode.com.
Nice. Love it. Yeah, I've checked it out. It's pretty awesome.
Thank
Lots
you.
of great free resources. There's a bunch of awesome content there if you join. I mean, what does
And
that
free
look like?
content too.
Yeah,
Yeah. So there's,
tons of free content. Yeah.
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 So we give out a lot of free content, and basically it's just when you work with us, you just get more support from us. So we have a private support group. And then in our 8-week thing we do every quarter, I think we're going to start doing every quarter, is you get live calls with us as well. So people really enjoy those. And then with our editing, you don't have to monkey around with any of the aspects of putting the technical pieces of a video together. So just trying to meet everybody where they're at in their journey. And so everybody has a spot wherever you're starting out. If you're brand new, you can afford our master class. If you're more seasoned and you just need to buy your time back with editing, you can do that. So we're just trying to find a spot for everybody and help them get to where they need to be in their marketing and just generate more business.
So you mentioned that you want to find a spot for everybody, but is there someone who's not a fit for what you're doing? Like that you just don't want to see them in the LO code because they might be disappointed because they're not, I don't know. I don't know exactly what I'm asking, but is there not a customer for you?
If you're somebody that refuses to do the work, there's always going to be work, especially
Yeah.
when you're building your own brand. Like somebody can't do it for you. What we're teaching you is how to do it yourself for the most part, but do it more efficiently, quicker, having resources, having templates, having most of it built out for you so that it's more plug and play, but you still, it's your brand, it's your business. You have to do the work. And if you're down to like your last dollar, I can't save you. No one can save you. Like, don't spend your last dollar on a hope and a prayer. You just have to get out there and just hustle. And then once you kind of get on your feet, then start investing in yourself. And I mean, I'm kind of I don't even take my own advice. I've put things on credit cards because I just like when the gym was going under, I put like a Facebook marketing course. It was like $1,000 and I put it on a credit card and it did help me. So, I mean, but
Yeah.
I'm somebody that I'm going to take action and not everybody's going to do that. Like sometimes you spend money and just the act of spending money makes you feel like you did something, just like the act of making phone calls to your friends. It feels like you're doing work, but
Yeah.
it's not moving the needle. You have to do something every day that's going to move the needle of getting more business in the door. And if you're not, you're only as good as your last 3 to 6 months of prospecting. And if you've done very little prospecting or marketing in the last 3 to 6 months, your pipeline is going to be very, very dry for the next 3 to 6 to 9 months.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Um, I've got nothing else for you, brother. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for joining me. And
Yeah,
we'll
thanks for
put
having me.
links. We'll put links to the LO code and in the show notes here and on our website. Ryan's a great guy. He's as genuine as he sounds, and he does produce some really great content. And whether you're in the mortgage space, the gym space, or whatever other business you move into in 10 years, Ryan, I know you're going to have a lot of success.
Hey, thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it.
All right, take care.
You too.